So just kind of a check-in video, giving you a little updates on the Porsche that I've got some drive time and what my thoughts are so far and how I'm liking it, and then what you're seeing on the cart. Some maintenance upcoming that needs to happen to the car that I don't know when the last time it has happened. Specifically, the transmission fluid and the transmission fluid and the differential fluid is essentially the same fluid. What goes into the transaxle or the transmission circulates through the rear end as well. So all the gears are pretty smooth on the car. The 1 to 2 shift is a little, I don't want to say notchy. It's not really notchy. It's just if you're not very intentional when you go into second, sometimes it won't go into second. Or if you think you're in second and you let out on the clutch, it'll grind and it'll revert back to neutral. It doesn't kick out of gear once it's in second, but as long as you're pretty positive, it's fine. This seems to be an issue with the 6-speed manual cars on the 996. I don't know if it's just a 99 thing. I mean, the car's got 117,000. Well, I can't read it right now. 117,000 and some change, and I don't think it was easy miles before I got it. So, some research that I've done, YouTube, seeing what other guys have done, specifically the Motul Gear 300. This is 7590. This is supposed to be like magic in a bottle. So, and it better be. It's like $30 a quart, or however much this is, 1.05, 1 liter, since everything's German or whatever. But so yeah, 7530, and a lot of guys that have had the 1.2 issues. A lot of people have said this has really made a big difference in how smooth the car will shift, and you'll get rid of, or if not eliminate, really help that shift. So hopefully this will make the car a little bit more enjoyable to drive. It's not an issue, it's just more of an annoyance than anything. We're gonna do Liqui Moly, and this is a German company specifically for German automobiles: Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, Volkswagen. This stuff is supposed to be geared more toward German cars. I think the car calls for 0W40. I'm going to put 5W40 in it. Again, some research. Some of the higher mileage cars seem to maybe do a little bit better with the 5W instead of the 0W. The motor's got some miles on it, some wear, so a little extra cushion, so to speak, might do it some good. When I first got the car, I had a pretty distinctive peck on a cold startup, and it sounded like lifter tick. My C5 Corvette had it. The GTO I had was starting to have it. It doesn't hurt anything, but it really annoys me to hear that peck. It would go away in this car after about 5 minutes. But while I've had it, and I haven't changed the oil in this thing yet, it's still clear, but still, it needs to be changed. But again, a Liqui Moly product, and it's hydraulic lifter additive. So obviously when the oil comes out of this, we're going to strain it, make sure there's nothing crazy in there. I mean, there shouldn't be. After actually adding a bottle of this, because there's a bottle in there now, after adding a bottle of this, after 2 cold starts in like 10 miles, now on a cold start or even anytime, there's 0 engine ticking. I was really surprised that this stuff, and the thing I like about this size, it's 10 ounces. a lot of the other stuff out there, I've tried some of this stuff in the past to help quieten down a tick or something like that. If you don't want to dive into the engine, most of the stuff is pretty safe. But a lot of it is a quart and sometimes more. So, if you don't want to go to the trouble of, draining your oil, and and doing all that just to add a quart to see if it makes a difference. With this being 10 ounces, you can really get by with adding this, and even if it is a little bit over, it's not going to hurt anything with it being 10 ounces. And honestly, with a car with some miles on it, chances are it's going to be a little bit on the low side anyway. This one wasn't, but anyway, this stuff is going to go back in with the oil change. So this thing takes 9 quarts, 3.4 liter flat 6, and 9 quarts of oil. So these things like a lot of oil. So this, the Liquid Moly 540, 7590 Motul, and then we're just going to do a standard, just a standard air filter. I suspect the one in the car, I haven't even checked it yet, is probably pretty dirty. Just a Moly replacement oil filter, and I've got a new fill plug for the oil pan, and then a metal gasket for that as well. May not need it, but I actually got most of this stuff as a kit. Well, the kit was all the oil, the filter, and then the new drain plug, and the gasket. The rest I ordered kind of separately. Everything except the gear oil came from FCP Euro. I've ordered some other stuff from them, caliper bolts, and what was the other thing that I ordered? Rotor screws, just the 2 screws in each rotor just to hold it on when you replace the rotors. So so far I've been happy with the service. Has been fine. The shipping's been fine. This isn't a sponsored video for FCP Euro. Wish it was. Maybe one day I'll get there, but happy so far. And I think from what I've researched, the oil that I've chosen, I think will fit well with the car. So yeah, maintenance coming up on some stuff that probably needs to happen. Since the last video, I didn't necessarily point it out up close, but I think I mentioned it. I'll roll this out of the way so you can kind of see it. So the front tire setup originally, so that's an 18 by 8.5. Yeah, I think it's either an 8 or an 8.5 inch wheel. I think it's an 8.5. The backs are 18 by 11s, and they're running a 285/35, which looks huge on this little car, which is exactly what I was going for, especially since the wheel and tire combination, or the wheel combination rather, is actually for a 4S car or a turbo car, which is the wide body cars. This particular car, a C2, just a base Porsche Carrera 911, they're not quite as wide, so I wanted a very aggressive fitment and offset, and I'm extremely pleased with it. I personally think a 285/35 on an 11-inch wheel, you would think would be stretched. I personally don't think it is on this particular setup. Part of the reason because these Kenda Kaiser tires, however you say it, they're just a wider 285, exceptionally wider. I would almost venture to say they're just a little. They've just got a wider stance to them than other 285s that I've seen in the same aspect ratio and diameter. So I think, and I like this look because actually the Mustang GT350s, they come with, what was it, 19s? I don't think they come with 18s. But they had like the first generation GT350s. They had like a 305, I think, from the factory. But it almost had not a stretched look, but instead of the sidewall being like super like bulgy on the side. It almost, you know, whether the tire is doing this on the wheel, it kind of tucks in. I kind of like that look on the right car, and this is what I was going for. So having said all that, it's got that tilt in on the tire. Does not look stretched at all. It's incredibly flush. Actually sticks out just a hair past the quarter. Not enough to hurt anything at all, but it just looks crazy aggressive. Love the rear. Front, I'm still playing around with the front. I have 5 millimeter spacers, which I originally put on the car. So originally, with this setup, it was 18 by 8s, 18 by 8.5s, a 245, 40, 18, and 5 millimeter spacers. So the 5 millimeter spacers was to push the wheel out to be flush with the front fender to kind of match the look of the rear. Once I've done that, and then I have the 245 40s on the front, I don't know if I like it or not. I saved the spacers. They may go on, they may not. I actually pulled those back off, and then I have since had a 235 40 18 mounted on the front, same tire. And all that is like, I don't even think it's half of an inch difference. I think maybe 4/10 of an inch shorter, and just a hair narrower. But it's enough to where the front now kind of has that bow end look, if you will, on the front to kind of match the back. And then also the profile is a little, I think the 245 was a little chunky. On paper, the diameter was actually still like, it was like half an inch lower than the 285 in the back. The 245 was, but it just looked a little too meaty, a little too thick. So, and also when I would do lock to lock turns, didn't hurt anything. You couldn't hear it, but it was rubbing the inner fender, so it was scraping the plastic. If you really got it in a bind and really turned it, you could hear it. So I'm much happier with the 235s. I think it suits the car better. I took the spacers off, so now if you look in the front of the car, back, it has a taper look to it. So in other words, the front wheels are not sunken in, but they're slightly inside the fender, and then the back are flush with the rear fender. And I think it gives it more of that wide body look, more of a muscular look, a little bit more tucked in the front, and then, you know, much wider in the back. The next thing to do, and hopefully you can see that from the camera angle, it's just, there's too much gap right here. The back, you know, it could come down a hair, but I actually really like the back. And part of the reason being is because I did go so aggressive in the back. If I do hit a crazy bump or pothole or something, it's not going to get into the fender, because these aren't rolled or cut or anything like that, and I don't plan to do that either. But the front, and I'm going to get some flack for this, so just go ahead and flame me for it. I've done this before. If you do it smart and you do it careful and you don't get carried away, I've not had a problem with it. The front springs are going to get cut. They're not going to get heated. They're not going to get cut drastic. I'm not going to slam the front of the car. The reason for doing this is a couple of reasons. One, if anybody knows me, and the channel has only really showed one car that I've had in my ownership, was the GTO. But I sometimes get in a habit of buying cars, fixing them up, doing what I want to do to them, and then selling them. And if I can make a profit, or if I can break even and have fun in the process, on to the next project. I used to be Mustang only. I still love Mustangs. I'll have another Mustang, but I've wanted to venture out, and that's the reason for this car. I've always wanted a rear engine Porsche Carrera 911. This was the one that I could afford. So having said that, I'm not going to put BC coilovers on it yet. I'm not going to put new Bilstein, however you want to say it, shocks and struts all the way around it yet. I'm not going to dial in. Well, I hope I can dial in the stance the way I want it, but I want to be able to do it super cheap to see if I still like the car in 6 months. If I do, and it's proven reliable, and there's no surprises, no major issues, yeah, I might spend the money and do it right. I'm not going to track the car. I'm not, I drive the car spirited, but for what I'm going to do, I'm going, the object is to drop that front about a half inch, just so there's a slight rake in the front where the nose is down just a little bit. The back I'm going to leave alone, and I think I will be much more pleased with the stance of this car. Like I said, in times past, it's not compromised the ride quality. Does it change the handling? Yeah, probably. But like I said, I'm not going to go crazy with it. I'm not going to lop off 2 coils. Then it would ride and drive like crap. I'm just going to, I'm just going to trim. I'm not going to do it. A buddy of mine's going to do it. So that way, if he does it, I can just say, man, you done that wrong. But yeah, just a little bit of a drop. The front of these cars are not very aggressive, in my opinion. The GT3 RS cars, GT3 RS, GT2, no, GT3 RS cars in the 996s, they've got a different front fascia and a splitter on the front, and the car just looks lower anyway, because these, the nose, they're bubbly, as the hood goes down, underneath the car, in front of the rear tire and the wheel, the bumper is going up. So it has that illusion that the front's not that low anyway. So I did put a little small, it does nothing for downforce. All it is for looks, but just a small little, I wouldn't even call it a splitter, but just a little spoiler on the bottom that you can see from the front, just to make it look a little lower. Drop the front, maybe 3/4 of an inch, at the most. That might be where I want it, 3/4 of an inch, a half inch, and just get rid of some of this tire gap right here. And I think that will make the car much more appealing to me. But I am liking it. The brakes work great since we done it. The tires feel really good. Car shifts good, car drives good, engine sounds good. The car, you probably can't see it on camera, but the bottom of the car is dirty. It's hammered with dust on the bottom of road ground. There's bugs on the windshield and bugs on the front. I've been driving it and enjoying it. So for those that give me a hard time, that said, you don't ever drive your car and get them dirty, this one's going to get a lot more dirtier than this. So there'll be some more miles, there'll be some more dust, there'll be some more dirt. And I was really hesitant about it being black to begin with. So far, it's not driving me nuts yet. I will say that after I've already paint corrected this, I can look at a few areas and I can scratch the car by looking at it. So I've actually had to spot buff a couple of areas that I've already corrected. I have no idea how these spots got here. I don't know if it's where I parked somewhere and somebody maybe just kind of leaning on it or whatever, or this drives me nuts when somebody's talking to you and it's your own car and they just kind of lean up against it. Something like that, probably, where the spots were. But it's probably going to get ceramic coated, because I'm probably just going to use that to my benefit to help this car not be so scratch and swirl prone, because the paint on this thing is just crazy soft. The reason that I'm hesitant to ceramic coat my own car is because this is kind of the test mule. So, the previous video where I've got the new sleek spray wax, this is a perfect candidate to showcase that and show it on my car, how it works. And with a ceramic coating, it's going to be limiting for me to do that. I'll have to use, one of our daily drivers or something that's a little bit more boring, to showcase. And I may do something even different. I may ceramic coat like half the hood, or ceramic coat the car, or maybe ceramic coat the car and not the hood, and use the hood for other testing areas, and I can divide it into 4s. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But yeah, it's kind of an update so far. The interior, I've showed you guys the interior on the video with the yellow trim. I've got some really nice compliments on it. I really like the yellow accents. It's not too much. I think it ties the calipers. And then I guess this is the first time you guys are seeing this across the windshield. I got that online from like Vinyl. I forgot the website, but I got two of them because I figure I would screw the first one up. Somehow I didn't. It's really straight, but I got two of them for like $29 shipped or something crazy. It looks pretty darn good, and it matches, from a distance, it matches the calipers. But I think the little yellow accents that I've got, I think it ties in well with the black car. The only other thing as of now that I've got coming is the car has no floor mats. It didn't when I got the car. So I've got just plain black basic floor mats with custom yellow stitching, very thin yellow stitching around the perimeter of the floor mats. So I think those will look nice in there. So just kind of a general update, some maintenance coming for this. Once I get the car, the springs cut on the front, revisit you with another video, and we'll get this thing washed up, cleaned, and then I'll show you the stance, and hopefully it's where I like it. So until then, yeah, just check out the website, check out social media, stay tuned for more updates.